Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. And a little cartoon review, a cartoon that if you were alive at the right time and you had any interest in cartoons at all, you probably thought this one was awesome, but it really didn't last very long. So it's kind of a cult cartoon at the moment, and it is available right at the moment. At the moment I'm doing this, available to view on Tubi. So I wanted to get this review out quickly, just in case there's some folks out there who have never seen it, and they'd have a chance to go check it out. I am talking about The Pirates of Dark Water. Now, this cartoon premiered as a 5-episode miniseries in 1991 on Fox Kids. It was created by David Kirschner. Now, Kirschner is an interesting guy. Got his start designing album covers for Neil Diamond and illustrating characters for the Muppets and Sesame Street, like in books. Created a book series called Rose Petal Place in 1983. Created and produced An American Tail in 1986. Chairman of Hanna-Barbera in 1989. And while he was there, he created and produced Wake, Rattle, and Roll, Gravedale High, and The Pirates of Dark Water. He designed the Chucky animatronic from Child's Play films, and he produced all 7 films. Involved in the unsold pilot Puchinsky. If you don't know, I think you could find it on YouTube. It has to be seen to be believed. And he produced Titan AE in 2000. So pretty cool, resume this guy has. Now, Pirates of Dark Water would get 8 additional episodes for its first season, broadcast on ABC in 1991 at 10:30 a.m. opposite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as Space Cats and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But the Turtles, yeah, that's the tough one. It got a second season of 8 episodes that would be syndicated in 92 and 93. It is easily one of the coolest cartoons of its time, and only 21 episodes to show for it, because those Turtle Boys did not cut it any slack. So why should you give this one a chance? Well, it's got to be one of the best looking cartoons of its day. Just the opening moments in the first episode provide vistas like this of a ship sailing through these great pillars of stone, this strange city in a fortified harbor, this pinnacle of stone topped by a castle, all in reds. And you see that that's like the moon of this planet. It's kind of like a Saturn for its moon, an elevated river spilling into the sea. And I love this one especially. It's reminiscent of the art of Howard Pyle and N.C. Wyeth, who were early inspirations for Kirschner. Again, if you've never seen their pirate paintings, artwork, illustrations, go look for them. Howard Pyle, N.C. Wyeth. Absolutely amazing stuff. But there's also here a definite fantasy flair and colors kind of, inspired by Calypso and inspired by the South Seas. And it's just got a lot of really interesting influences on the look. The cartoon is set on the planet of Mer, which is, of course, inspired by the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Arabic seafarers typified by Sinbad, and the peoples and places, like I said, of the South Pacific. Mer is expressly described as an alien world, and it has an endless array of wonders, often with little explanation of how they might fit into an actual ecosystem. This makes the cartoon really firmly implanted in the area of fantasy. They're not trying to give you a realistic alien world. It is the world of fairy tales and folklore and all that. It is a water world, many seas, numerous islands. We never even get a hint of a landmass like as large as Japan. It seems to be all islands on this world. And it is a planet of alien animals. It has sea serpents of a sort, as well as the winged dagron, the monkey bird, and a score of others. Every corner of the markets and the ships on this world are crammed with strange creatures, both animal and sentient. And in this, it sort of reminds me of the later Avatar, The Last Airbender, the scope, the somewhat non-Western inspirations, the imaginary creatures. There's actually quite a lot of similarities between the shows now that I think of it, including in terms of theme and even a little bit the characters. And it makes sense. These are heroic tales, quests and journeys and exploration into the unknown, seeking knowledge and wisdom, so there's bound to be some similarities. Our primary character in this cartoon, the protagonist, is Prince Rin, voiced by George Newbern, who is well remembered for voicing Superman in the Deanie Tim Justice League cartoons. When we first meet Rin, he dwells in a lighthouse with a protector, sort of a nanny. His parents are unknown to him. He is an orphan. One night during a terrible storm, he catches sight of a man in a small boat, hard pressed by the storm, by the high waves, the wind. He rescues the man and discovers that it is his long-lost father, Primus, former king of Octopon, the greatest city that ever was on Myr. Now, before his father perishes, Rin is given a quest to secure the fabulous and mythic 13 treasures of rule. Through this opening to the series, we see Rin's goodness, we see his heroism, strength, endurance, and he has a quest. So it's a really good introduction to the character. And it does have some of the aspects of the hero's journey. Now, Ayaz, one of his compatriots, is the perfect rogue, a true pirate, voiced by Hector Elizondo. Ayaz really wants money. He wants treasure, real treasure, when they begin. But he kind of comes around to the quest, as they go on, maybe a couple stumbles along the way. He's the most experienced sailor among the crew. I like how the most mature, experienced member of the crew is also one of the least reliable when you get right down to it. Lots of fighting between Ayaz and Tula. We'll talk about her in just a moment. Sometimes over the idea of a woman aboard ship, which is an old seagoing trope. He also has just an amazing look. You can see the Sinbad influence with him. And you can kind of get that influence as well with Tula. At first, she's sort of the wild card. She's a pirate, but she has her own agenda. And eventually, she becomes something of a sorcerer. They call them an ecomancer on this world. They have some control over the natural world. She is voiced by Jodie Benson. Of course, it voiced the Little Mermaid. Good example of the heroines that populated adventure cartoons in the 80s and 90s. The ones that some people seem to think did not exist. We're talking like Scarlet and Lady J from G.I. Joe. We're talking Chitara, those kinds of characters. She is strong, independent, maybe not as initially as heroic as Rin, in as much as she has her own agenda. She signs on, but the quest for the 13 treasures of rule is not necessarily why she initially signed on, but she becomes more trustworthy as time goes by, probably more trustworthy than Ayaz. We also have Nidler, voiced by Roddy McDowall in the miniseries, later by Frank Welker in the regular series. And when they've rebroadcast the miniseries, they changed the voice. They had Frank Welker re-record those lines. He's kind of comedy relief, also a tie-in to the island of the monkey birds. He is, in fact, a monkey bird. Just as Ayaz lusts after gold, Nidler really just thinks with his stomach. He wants food. But, he becomes one of the group, one of the companions, and he's even reliable once in a while. From this crew of misfits, friendships are made, loyalty is forged, though not easily, and not without some fussing and fighting, which is where you sort of get the lessons for kids about character aspect that you usually got in cartoons of this time, as these characters learn to work together and trust one another. Maybe teaches some kids how to do that too. Well, why do our heroes need the treasures of rule? Because of dark water, a strange ooze-like substance that bursts from the sea and pulls people and ships down into it, never to be seen again. Now, little spoiler sign for just a moment here in case you don't want to know what lies behind the dark water. Well, in episode 13, we discover it is the Dark Dweller, a demonic being who lives under the waves in this creepy sort of sea cave. A little reminiscent to me of Jubilex, the demon lord of ooze from the advanced D&D monster manual. I mean, I'm a D&D guy. A lot of stuff's reminiscent of me of D&D, whether it was meant to be or not. Now, it is encountered again in episode 14, The Dark Disciples, along with a coven of servants who join forces with the other bad guy in the series. All right, we're going to go ahead and take down that spoiler sign now, so just in case folks didn't want to know. Now, the other big bad guy in the series, chasing Rin throughout episode after episode, is the captain of the evil Maelstrom, Lord Bloth, voiced by Brock Peters. He did a lot of cartoon voices, maybe best known to me as the voice of Darth Vader in the old radio program of Star Wars. Now, Bloth held King Primus in his dungeons for 17 years before he escaped, long waiting for the man to break and tell him the locations of the 13 treasures of rule. Now, as one would expect, the massive Bloth is a bully, although he is also very cunning and smart, and he is definitely not a coward. Now, accompanying Bloth are Mantis, voiced by the great Peter Cullen, the First Mate, and a definite challenger for the supremacy of Lord Bloth, and the diminutive Conk, voiced by Tim Curry. All three of them keep the heat on Rin as Bloth wants those treasures so he can rule the world. The villains have some infighting issues of their own, of course, with all of them seeking advantage over one another, so it's a pretty good representation of evil and the problems with evil. It should be mentioned that the ships in this are characters in their own right, or at least their design is suggestive of the crews that sail them. Rin's boat is the Wraith, which is actually stolen by Ayaz in the first episode, sleek and fast, and it has this sail that can be rigged to allow it to glide for short distances. Again, this is a fantasy cartoon, and Bloth's Maelstrom is this giant monstrosity, seemingly built on the skeleton of some massive sea creature, long enough that it even has dungeons within it. And these dungeons are occupied by Bloth's slaves and prisoners. Those prisoners even aid Rin in one episode. And it also has this fearsome beast that took Conk's leg. Now, Bloth's weapons are often sea creature based. They have the aforementioned Dagrons, of course, that they use as mounts to fly after people, but also these, acid excreting creatures that they throw them at the Wraith, and they'll eat away the mast or the sails, that kind of thing, and some others similar to that. Now, while chasing the treasures and being chased by Bloth, Rin and his crew have numerous adventures. The seafaring setting is perfect for this. You can compare it to something like Star Trek, moving from planet to planet. Every one of these little islands kind of has its own thing going on. Their foes include a tribe of pale subterranean warriors in episode 2, Pandawa, home of the monkey birds in episode 3, where a slave revolt must be incited and led, an alchemist named Cray in episode 7, who once loved Rin's father and has some plans for Rin herself, ghost pirates in episode 15, who nearly steal Ayaz's soul, so to speak, with the promise of treasure, and nearly steal Rin's while he risks death to save Ayaz. The Dagron Master in episode 16 is a seller of Dagrons who has a sinister secret for his supply of the beasts. There is an island of Amazons in episode 21, The Living Treasure, the last episode of the series. They're voiced by Tress McNeil and are very, very unpleasant, although McNeil does a great job with them. We get Bloth and Rin having to work together in episode 17, the game players of Undar, in sort of a nod to the Defiant ones, body switching in episode 20, the Soul Stealer, thanks to the mystic knowledge of the Dark Dwellers cult, and some epic shrinkage in episode 11, the Collection. We also get to meet Ayaz's sister, Solia, just as roguish and headstrong as he is in episode 19. She also kind of has a thing for Rin, which Ayaz does not like at all. Most of the stories, like I said, teach a lesson, as well as providing adventure. Pretty standard for the day in kids' entertainment, and really not a bad thing, in my opinion, if it's done well. Sadly, we never really see the end of the story in this one. Only 8 of the 13 treasures are collected before the series is canceled. We do see the rebirth of Octopon, however, and how the treasures can be used to keep the dark water at bay. While the show did get a toy line and a Marvel comic book for 9 issues, it did not find a large enough audience to stay viable. A miniseries and 2 very short regular seasons, a tragedy when you consider how creative and beautiful that the show was. Kids TV tended in the 80s and 90s to be dominated by 600-pound gorillas that kind of sucked all the air out of the room for other shows. G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And this left many good series sort of out in the cold. Fortunately, they got made, and maybe they're short, but at least it's something you could go and watch. And I've covered a few other ones on this channel. The problem with finding an audience for this one, though, was exacerbated by the miniseries, which had very solid animation, but it was quite expensive. As a result, each half-hour episode cost $500,000. That'd be $1.2 million an episode in today's dollars. And it had twice the cells of a normal cartoon produced by Hanna-Barbera. The drop in quality is noticeable in later episodes, although they're pretty well animated. Traditional American animation of the time also had a problem, though, with action, which is strange, given the fact that Japanese animators learned some of the tricks of their trade for fluid animation from people like Bob Clampett and, Tex Avery, who were working back in the 30s and 40s in the United States. By 91, American animation was having to compete more and more and more with anime. And that inability to animate action as effectively, I think, did also hurt them. If there, though, was ever a 90s property that needed to be resurrected in a good way, it's got to be the Pirates of Darkwater, at a minimum, to find the remaining treasures of Rule and see how the Darkwater is finally put to rest on Mer. Will we ever get it? I kind of doubt it. It is, though, easily one of the best cartoons of the 1990s. One of the better American cartoons ever made. A real step up, in my opinion, for Hanna-Barbera. When you look at a lot of their output from the 80s, it is definitely worth a watch. Like I said, at the moment, it can be found on Tubi. This is a cartoon that I saw back in the day, kind of at random, just a few episodes here and there. I'd wanted to watch the entire series for a long time. Just couldn't find it. Popped up on Tubi one day. I actually dove right into this one. Pardon the pun. Went right through the series quickly before it went away. It is still, I believe, up there. So you might want to go to Tubi and check this out if you've never seen it, or if you saw it and have been wanting to see it for years. Again, the Pirates of Darkwater, folks. Great cartoon. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, your memories of the cartoon, or any questions you might have. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That would be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Watch the Pirates of Darkwater, and I will see you again, hopefully soon, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.